I'd like to take this time now and introduce Mr. Jack McDonald.
McDonnell, that's Jack McDonnell.
Yes. McDonnell, sorry. Well, I know him as Jack Mac. I never really even knew his last name. It was Jack Mac. Jack has Jack Mac's Resto Shop, and he's a longtime Z owner and club member, and you know, is a recent advertiser with the OZC. So, and he's also organized and participates with his 240 in the Grip Autocross Championship Series in Varney, Ontario. So, but anyway, a little bit of background on him there, and Jack, please take it away, buddy.
All right, thank you. This is cool. I've been participating in a number of Zoom meetings and go-to meetings over the last few weeks, and you know, despite the fact that we can't all get together face to face, I think this is a pretty good second best approach to say hi to everybody. Right. So thanks for the opportunity here to let me introduce Resto Shop. And Diane, I'm going to share my screen here. I've got a short little presentation to do. I had the 240 for about maybe 10, 11 months. Of course, with the 73 240, it had the Hitachi carbs on it. And I don't know if anybody has a 73 240 with Hitachi carbs, but they tend to get vapor lock. And I dealt with the vapor lock for a few months. You know, would wrap the carbs, wrap the fuel lines, put a heat shield on, pop the hood in the middle of summer, and it would still vapor lock. So I decided to get a fuel injected car, and that's when I got, well, 2 years later, I got a 76 280Z bone stock. And then over the years, over the past 36 years, it's morphed into this. That picture was taken back in March here at Motorama. Motorama had just opened when COVID started creating all kinds of shutdowns. So unfortunately, the show was was poorly attended, and they shut down on the Sunday. So that was unfortunate, but it was still fun being out there because everybody did show up with the cars. Guys from the U.S. been to Motorama, you got to do it. And then I purchased 2016 Nissan 370Z, and this was just taken a couple of days ago, waiting for the Full Throttle Motor Speedway in Varney, and the big smoke of Varney, Ontario, to wait for that track to open up. As Lou said, I organize an autocross series on the paved oval on the speedway. It's a lot of fun. Okay, so we're all here because of COVID-19, and I'm pretty sure we're all very familiar with COVID. COVID is an acronym. CO is corona, VI is virus, D is disease, and of course 19 is when it originated, the year. So I thought I would just do a quick primer on what it means for us when we're cleaning the interior of our car. And this is important to understand how coronavirus lives on surfaces, and done by WHO, by the CDC, and the pathogens will survive for up to 3 hours. Now, that's not the same for when they actually land on a hard surface. The reason why they tell you to do social distance if you are out and about is if somebody sneezes or coughs, it's that particle that the virus attaches to is projected, you know, maybe 1 to 2 meters. It's not going to float in the air. The particles that the virus is attached to, it's actually going to drop down to the ground fairly quickly. But if somebody is coughing or sneezing, that's where the concern is. There's no concern about going out in public and breathing in a contaminated air. That's not going to happen. But when it comes to the surfaces in our vehicle, this is what we need to be aware of. So again, this is from Health Canada, CDC, Center for Disease Control. These are all tests that they've done. And you can see the last one here, stainless steel and plastic. The virus will survive for 72 hours. So in the detailing industry, if shops are open, they're asking customers to leave their vehicle for 3 days, parked outside. Down in the U.S., where there's warmer states, the heat does speed up the kill process of the pathogens that the virus is living in. So 72 hours, 3 days. If you're uncertain yourself, if you've had somebody in the car, if you've been somewhere, you can have virus contaminate something for up to 3 days, especially on plastic. So just be aware of that. Now, as far as cleaning it, there's cleaners and there's disinfectants, and then you've got your hand sanitizer, that sort of thing. But I've just picked this Lysol multi-surface cleaner because it has specific ingredients in it that will kill the virus, the coronavirus. Here are some of the active ingredients. If you have some cleaners at home right now and you're not sure what you have, if you look on the label here, and any one of these ingredients is likely going to kill the virus, and some more than one of these ingredients in a solution. The last one here, sodium hypochlorite, that's basically bleach. That's the main ingredient in bleach. Bleach has other ingredients to remove stains, but the key ingredient that will kill viruses, not just germs and bacteria, but viruses, is sodium hypochlorite. And that's what you really need to have to eliminate any type of virus that may be in your vehicle. And again, use a lot of common sense here with cleaning your steering wheel, your door panels, the gear shift lever, and so on and so forth, the radio controls. And hand sanitizer is not going to kill the virus unless you have a hand sanitizer that has more than 70% alcohol. Alcohol anhydrous means it's absent of water. So the higher concentration of alcohol has less water in it. You can go to the drugstore and you can get 99% pure alcohol, like a rubbing alcohol. You can get 70, 75%. I have different solution and different mixtures here that I use for cleaning and disinfecting and killing bacteria and killing viruses. So this is just a quick little primer here on some things that you may not have been aware. Bottom line is use a multi-surface cleaner like a Lysol wipe to kill bacteria, to kill the viruses. Anything will basically kill germs and that sort of thing, but you've got to have one of these key ingredients or a very strong alcohol content to kill the coronavirus itself. Okay, so let's get into vehicles now and different paint types. Again, some of you may be aware of this, but I thought I'd just go through the different types of paint systems that have been used through the years. Lacquer was a very popular paint choice, and this is going back to the mid-20s up until the 50s and 60s. Lacquer is still used. A lot of old school guys with the classic cars, they still like using lacquer. They'll lay down multiple layers of lacquer, sanding it in between, rubbing it in between, and you just get a lot of depth of color. Lacquer's a little softer than some other paints, but it does have a real nice luster, and it does hold any kind of additional, if you put in sparkles or metallics or something like that, lacquer's a good paint for that. And enamels became, prior to Henry Ford primarily used Varsols. Colored Varsols were used. It's a common misconception that they were enamels. They actually weren't enamel paints. They were Varsols that were colored with different pigments and that sort of thing, and different additives. But primarily enamels have been used in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. And then we get into modern vehicles, which is what we have on our Zeds. It's acrylic enamels. And it's a combination. You get good color quality, you get good depth, you get the hardness factor, and something that has dictated what paint types are used, specific safe they are. A lot of this. Now that's not great for the environment, and that's why lacquers aren't used anymore outside of a handful of body shops. So the environment has really dictated to the type of paints that are used. Then we break that down into single stage and base clear. Single stage, it's the base color that has gloss properties mixed into it. That Roadster that was behind me here in my shop, that's a single stage paint. That paint was done about maybe 30 years ago. It's not the original paint on it, but it was resprayed in a single stage enamel, acrylic enamel. And as opposed to, the 370 image here that is the base clear. And then we have a couple of differences in paint types, paint processes from different manufacturers. And this is generally speaking, there are exceptions to these, but generally speaking, domestic and European manufacturers use lay down a thicker paint layer that includes the base color and the clear coat. Japanese imports, like our cars, some of our cars, and Hyundai, some other Pacific Rim companies, the paint is a little thinner, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's less quality or if the thicker paint is better quality. It's just how the paint is applied. And you can have a very thin paint that has a very high quality, but it will chip easy. And I can tell you, my black 370, until I put the ceramic coating on it, and black shows everything anyways. It's a terrible color for hiding stuff, but there's ways around that. So when you hear the term paint correction is a process of eliminating swirl marks, scratches in the top surface, which is the clear coat of modern paint systems. So I just wanted to go through and show you what that consists of as far as the base clear coat. So we have our metal, and again, this isn't for every specific car. Obviously, you're going to have carbon fiber cars out there, carbon composites, fiberglass reinforced panels, the Corvette, and so on and so forth, but primarily for metal vehicles. We've got the metal surface, then we have an E-coat. The E-coat was actually a method that Henry Ford had initiated, way back at the turn of the last century, and it was a process that was so good, it's how the cars were actually painted. The E-coat stuck to everything because they put it in a bath. Panels were dipped in a bath. This is going way back to the 1910s and 1915s when they were dipping panels in a bath of a paint solution, electrostatically charging it, and it would adhere, it would bond to the metal. Manufacturers do that, but it's an E-coat. It's thinner. It's not it's not a specific color per se, but it does help with anti-corrosion. On top of the E-coat, then we have the primer. The primer can be different colors. I've seen white, I've seen gray, I've seen black, and there's been some problems with some manufacturers over the last maybe 6 to 7 years that have used poor primer, and the paint flakes off the primer, regardless of how good the E-coat is. Then you've got your base color. In this particular case, it's black. Then you have your clear coat. Now that's everything that is on the metal of your vehicle right now, of course, in a different scale. So if we get a scratch on the car, it may scratch the clear coat. You're going to ding the clear coat. You might have a little divot. You might have a swirl mark. You might see some UV fading, a little bit of hazing and that sort of thing. It's primarily happening in the clear coat. You get a scratch that goes a little deeper, goes through the clear coat into the base coat. Now you're through the clear coat, and I can tell. I have a microscope that I use and different tools, and I can visually see if it's gone through the clear coat into the base color. Then we've all seen that where you get a scratch and it goes right into the primer, and the primer's coming right through. So paint correction deals with how do you eliminate those gouges? How do you eliminate those scratches? And, you know, we're only dealing with 100 microns here. And to put that in perspective, 100 microns is just a slightly thicker than a human hair, which is 70 microns. So when I'm sanding the vehicle surface, when I'm sanding the clear coat, I have to be very careful. Any one of us had to be very careful when you're trying to eliminate a scratch, because you don't have a lot of material there that you can work with. But, you know, there's tricks and experience and that sort of thing. So you've got different compounds to use, different grits of sandpaper. I go all the way up to 3,000. Sometimes I go a little higher, depending on the paint type that I'm working on from different vehicle manufacturer. Then, you know, the different compounds, rubbing compound, cutting compound, polishing compound, the different pads that I use, the speed of the polisher, the heat that's being generated. All these elements factor into how I'm going to address that. So getting into, you know, okay, I don't necessarily want to do paint correction, Jack. I just want to, you know, wash my car and get as much crap off as possible. So if we look, I'll go through a scenario that I do when a typical vehicle comes in, depending on what I'm going to do to the vehicle. Knowing that this vehicle is going to have a ceramic coating or a polymer coating, I want to strip everything off that vehicle. So I go into a decontamination process. Now, when I do a decontamination process, I'm using pre-soak that has different solutions in the pre-soak, and it's primarily based on low pH, which is a very acidic solution, and a high pH, which gets into the alkalines. The alkalines, the high pH alkaline is going to help me remove organic compounds like bird droppings, pH, and acidic pH is going to remove non-organic like salt. So I can use one or the other. I can use both. I mix up a solution, I use that. But I want to strip that because I don't want to, when I start doing paint correction, if I'm going to be polishing the clear coat, I don't want to be grinding anything into the clear coat. So I want to make sure I remove all that. So I'll do a pre-soak, I'll do a wash, you know, and then I've got here the 2-bucket system. That's where you have 2 buckets. You've got the little strainer on there so that the dirt will fall through. Your rags aren't sitting in it. Your wash mitt's not sitting in it. Very typical. I do that all the time, and it does make a difference because I don't want to pull any dirt out and put it back on the surface of the vehicle. Now, if I'm not going to do any type of coating and I just want to wash the vehicle because I did a ceramic coating on this last year, I don't want to strip any of that off. I'll use a pH neutral. That's I think it's 7 on the pH scale, and that gives me the flexibility to wash the vehicle but not strip anything off it. So when you are washing your vehicle and you may have a wax coating, now waxes aren't the greatest example because they only last a few days anyways, but you may have put a polymer on that might, you know, last for a month or something like that, and you want to wash the vehicle 2 days later, use a pH neutral car shampoo to do that. And if it doesn't say pH neutral on it, don't use it because it won't be pH neutral. So another method to decontaminate is to use a clay bar. It's literally a chunk of clay. You use that. You have to use a lubricant. You go over the entire surface of the vehicle with a little chunk of clay. Use a white piece of clay or a light gray. It'll be black by the time you're finished. Even after decontaminating and so on and so forth, it's amazing what that clay bar will pull off. So I do all of that before I get into the cutting stage. This is where I use a harsh, aggressive cutting compound, an aggressive wool pad, or very coarse foam pad, and I start grinding away at the surface. And I do that. It mars the surface. It you can't even see any shine anymore. But then you start working on, you want to start bringing the shine back. So then you start getting into buffing and polishing and that sort of thing, and that's what brings that back. So once I do that, and you know, if you're going to put a type of wax product on, whether it's you're applying it by hand out of a can, a liquid wax or a spray wax, you want to have everything completely dry. Obviously, water spots are terrible, especially I live in a rural area here, and there's iron everywhere. I have a special filter system in my shop here that helps eliminate a lot of the minerals, but I can't leave water on for more than 5-10 minutes. It will spot, and water spots are very hard to get off. If you leave them on there, they will start to eat away at the clear coat. They are very damaging. I had a Camaro that I did a few weeks back. The guy just got it out of storage, a convertible. He had tree sap on it. He had water spots on it. He didn't do anything. It doesn't look like he did anything for a couple of years on the car, and it was brutal. It took me a lot of work to get it back to a good shine. I did, but if you get anything on your vehicle, you got to get it off right away. You know, bird crap is the worst. It will eat away at the clear coat real quick. So then we've got different types of coatings. Waxes, like I say, you know, there's good carnauba waxes out there. You can either apply them by hand, you spray them on. Waxes stick to the surface. They don't bond. They stick to the surface, but they feel great. They feel like butter. I love the feel of a good carnauba wax. And, you know, it won't last long. That's the downside. So products have come out over the last few years to, you know, keep that shine, but have the shine last for a little longer and protect it in the process. So we've got polymer coatings. I've got a polymer coating that will last for 6 months. Or you get into ceramic coatings. Ceramic coatings have become very popular over the last few years. It's very time consuming for me to apply it, and it has a very specific window before the product flashes on the surface of the vehicle, where you have to apply it and remove it and buff it and polish it. You have to do multiple stages with that, but the results are impressive. Ceramic coatings chemically bond at a nano level, and I have one product that lasts up to 9 years, and that's guaranteed from the manufacturer that it will not wear off for 9 years. And then I have everything in between. So it, you know, there's a lot of great options out there. Feel free to ask me about anything. And here's just a small sampling of some of the cars that I did. These were some vehicles from last season. There's a large contingency of classic car owners up here, primarily domestic vehicles, muscle cars. Occasionally, you know, I get an import like the Mazda in the middle there, the blue one. That's a 1974 Mazda RX-4. That is single stage, and that's the original paint from 1974. The owner brought it to me. He had a huge scratch on the driver's side. After I did 2.5 days of photo here, the owner took it to a car show and he won first place the following week. This is another vehicle that I did. This is a 57 Thunderbird. This is the E-Code version. The E-Code is the carb setup on this particular car. This is a well-known collector up here. He has a large collection of Ford vehicles. I've done another one of his vehicles, a Cougar. This one I did last year. This is also a single stage paint. And there was some a little bit of mechanical work that I did on it for this gentleman as well. He took this to Cobble Beach Concours d'Elegance and won first place. And that's when Chris Hadfield, the astronaut, was at Cobble Beach when he brought his Thunderbird out too. But Andy and his T-Bird took first place. He was pretty happy. Him and his wife were very, very happy. That was a cool car to work on, and just a cool car, period. This is actually a reflection on a black vehicle. This was after I did my whole number on it. Paint correction, 5-year ceramic coating, and I do a lot of Instagram ads and a lot of Google ads and a lot of Facebook ads, and I do a video for every vehicle that I do. And people love the videos that I do, so this was part of the start of the video, just to trick people, thinking that they don't know what they're looking at until I pull back and it's the actual surface of a vehicle, and a black vehicle to boot. So if you follow my steps, or if you bring your car to me, you can get that kind of reflection. You don't want to have my squinty mug on it. Have your own squinty mug. That's it. Thank you.